I have a challenge for you. If you choose to accept this simple challenge, you will become happier, more peaceful, mindful, and influential. There's a famous saying that says, arguments about scripture achieve nothing but a stomach and a headache. And I think I can improve on this statement by simply crossing a lot of it out. Arguments achieve nothing. Full stop. There's my quote. Right, that's it. I think it's a pretty accurate quote, and in this video I want to prove to you why I think that's the case, and the challenge for you will to be never to argue again. There are two reasons humans are on top of this food chain, and if you're like some vegan that's like, no, I only eat kale, that's okay. I'm not talking about what you eat. I'm talking about we are the only species that is able to eat anything we want. We have no natural predator. We are on top of the food chain. So listen up, because the human advantage isn't complicated to a genius such as yourself. This advantage is easily broken down into two simple parts, and alone they both give a sizable advantage, but combined they allow us to rule the world. Our first advantage is we can communicate in large numbers. But before you get cocky about it, so can ants. Bees, schools of fish, and many other species communicate in large numbers by default. The thing is, other animals usually do this on simple cause and effect. That is to say, their communication only works in a singular set way. So think about it flexibly, because you can. Bees can't. They don't have a democratic society. They never establish a union. They can't collude to commit treason. They can communicate in large numbers, but they are unable to communicate flexibly because their entire society runs in a single set way. For a bee, nothing is up for debate. Welcome to the second part of our secret to thriving. We communicate flexibly. But before you think you're great, so can elephants. Again, this isn't special. Any animal with a well-developed prefrontal cortex can do this. Monkeys, dolphins, elephants, wolves, they all have self-awareness and they can all communicate flexibly. The difference with these other animals and us is they cannot do this in large numbers. They need to have a previous relationship with another member of their species before they can communicate in an effective way. They need to trust each other. Humans also need to trust each other, but we automate trust. And that is what gives us such a huge advantage. For example, you don't know the guy flying the plane, but you still trust this total stranger to fly you through the sky while you're strapped into a chair that is bolted to the floor of a tube. You don't think about how the plane works, and you don't really care. You trust this person. So why do you trust these people? Well, you don't trust them personally. You trust they are qualified because our species has complicated systems in place to ensure that they are. You have faith in our systems. You trust the systems. So I think it's fair to say that humans have come a pretty long way in the last 100,000 years, to the point where we are now sending people into space, and we have this whole internet system set up so that I can yell my grumblings at you. But just because we can communicate so easily through social media is only half the battle won. The quality of the information is what really matters. So when I say arguments achieve nothing, I'm not talking about discussions, debates, or disagreements. These are all fine and effective ways for us to develop our communication so that we can communicate flexibly in large numbers and continue to grow. It's only when you sprinkle emotion on these things that you have an argument. Arguments achieve nothing. If you think arguments do achieve something, put a comment below and let me know what you think they achieve, because I'd like to hear it. The funny thing about arguments is you only get emotional about something if you think what the other person is saying is true. For example, you can try this yourself. Go up to the next skinny girl you see and call her fat. She'll probably laugh, right? It's not going to really affect her personally. But if you go up to a girl that might think she's overweight and you call her fat, now that's going to be a different result. She's going to be personally offended because she sees truth in what you are saying. The silly thing about arguments is, it is only when you think the insult is true that you are emotional about it. So if you don't think it is true, then why would you be emotional? Or, if you don't respect the person talking, then why would you care what they think? Or, if you do respect the person talking and you believe what they are saying is true, then just take the advice. Emotion is still not useful to you. It is only when you involve ego that you're going to get defensive and maybe even attack back. Arguments achieve nothing. Let me give you an example of how easily people invoke emotion in any given situation when it is completely unnecessary. And I'm going to show you this in the form of an email that I sent to my email list, and one of the response in particular that I got about that, which I think was purely somebody being triggered emotionally. I didn't even mention Donald Trump, but somehow it's gone to that area, and I'm getting hundreds of emails from Americans just crazy about this. Before I give you my opinion, I'm going to show you what I sent. So here's the email. It's called How to Avoid Arguments. I basically wrote, the biggest threat to all your relationships is an argument. Something most folks don't know is you can easily avoid them. Disagreements are fine and normal because it'd be weird if you never disagreed. But arguments are unnecessary. Arguments only appear when you are both emotionally attached to the topic you are discussing. If you carry this feeling through time, aka hold a grudge, that's called trauma, and it seems pretty sad to give yourself trauma over a damn conversation. I mean, you should be able to discuss money, health, religion, or politics peacefully with any other human you want, but you can't. And the reason you can't is because most humans have emotional attachments to these topics. So if you want to have better relationships with almost every other human you meet, don't be that dude. Be the person that can talk about anything openly, honestly, and unemotionally, because you know damn well it is okay to disagree. If you can consistently leave emotion out of it, you will leave the other person little choice but to abandon their emotion and do exactly the same thing. Let the little guys argue. So that's the email that I wrote, right? It's not really a big dramatic deal. And, I got some replies saying, yeah, this is cool. I got some replies saying, whatever, dude, like a normal email that I send. If you're not on my email list, by the way, you should be. Anyway, the reply one reply I got was crazy. Now, I realized that, no, I'm not going to give an opinion yet. Let's just do it. Here's the reply from a girl called Cynthia. Sorry, but this is a gross oversimplification of conflict at a time where we must stand up to gross injustice. Please don't tell me I need to keep emotion out of it when, as just one small example, we have neighbors here in the US proudly supporting an ignorant fascist who, among other things, locks little kids up in cages at the border. When I overhear these people talking MAGA, which for those who don't know stands for Make America Great Again, I will confront them every single time. This detached stance you're promoting is total BS. Cynthia, sent from my iPhone invented by the son of a Syrian immigrant. How that's relevant, I will never know. Now, I've dealt with rough topics before. I've got no problem speaking about religion, politics, or money. It doesn't bother me. Everyone knows my religious stance. I put up a video on religion in which my stance is, I don't know. Right? That's my official stance on religion. And people got crazy about that. Right? Now, the same with Donald Trump and America. I didn't even talk about American politics, but here I am amongst it now. And I'm going to show you why in a second. But the interesting thing about it is I dipped my toe in American politics. I just dipped my toe in the water and the whole pool boiled. It's such a heated topic over there. So, and politics is always heated, I guess, but Trump is just stirring the pot, man. Trump is just the word of the... He's just a thing to talk about, isn't he? Anyway, as you can see, I haven't mentioned politics yet. So I wrote an official statement on what Cynthia wrote to me, and here's what I wrote. Cynthia missed my point. Emotions are normal. Disagreements are useful. It's mixing the two is called an argument. And arguments never solve anything. I agree that it can be difficult, but I stand by what I say. If you have neighbors supporting something you don't agree with, confront them. Sure, it's cool you stand up to gross injustice. My point is, the more emotional you are while confronting these people or any other human, the less influential you'll be. That's just how reality is. If you want actual results, it is the person that stays calm and assertive that always has the advantage. Isn't it interesting that American politics stir up such emotion? I think it's crazy. But one lady sent me a really interesting question, not in response to that email. She actually sent me an email from my members area in my website, so she's a customer of mine, and I think it's a really good question. I read your response about emotional arguments being ineffective and calm discussions more effective and functional. Do you have any thoughts on why that is true? Why are most folks sort of offended when someone has an emotional response? I think most people aren't really offended when other people are emotional when they're arguing. But I think it's just a really bad way to get your point across, and people are not influenced by it. If I want to tell you something or give you a message and I'm yelling and screaming about it, you're going to be more focused on how emotional I am rather than on the content and what I'm saying. Now, the reason being calm and assertive is more influential makes total sense if you think about it. So if you look at dogs, if you ever yell at your dog, you're going to get less respect because dogs hunt in packs. Dogs are pack animals, right? They're very social and they want to follow the leader, and they want their leader to be the one that knows this reality better than everyone else, right? So who's the dog that knows the reality the most? Well, it's the guy that's not so surprised by everything because he's probably seen it before. It's the guy that's not super emotional about anything because he's learned to control his emotions so that he can think clearly in the moment and make the correct decision. It's the dog that is calm and assertive. Calm and assertive are the words that I got from a dude called Caesar, which you'll probably know. He's the dog whisperer, right? The dog whisperer. And he does this show in America, has done for ages. I don't know if he's still going, I don't know. But he gets it. He really gets it. And what he does is he goes from house to house helping people train their dogs. But he'll be the first to tell you that he's not there to train the dog. He's there to train the human how to be calm and assertive. The reason he does this is because that's what works. Dogs listen to other animals that are calm and assertive. So if you want to be, and a lot of dogs think they're the boss of the pack, especially little chihuahuas and pugs and little annoying dogs that someone knocks on the door and the dog runs to it and just doesn't care what this family wants. They're like, who are you and why are you at my house, right? That's the dog's attitude because the dog thinks it is the boss, the leader of the pack. And Caesar will train the human to be calm and assertive so that they can become the leader of the pack, and then suddenly the dog will listen to them. Humans are the same. We're social animals. It just makes sense. We're all born in this reality that makes no sense to anybody. Nobody knows what's going on. It makes sense to be calm and assertive. And I learned this from door to door a long time ago. I knocked like 50, 60,000 doors in Canberra in Australia. That's a lot of door-to-door sales, right? And I learned to be calm and assertive because that's how you make money. You need to be calm. You need people to be able to listen to you and take the message in. And if you want to be more influential, you need to be less emotional. I actually have an entire course about this. If you are a door-to-door sales guy, you can go to my website and just click on door-to-door streetwise sales. And it's an entire course dedicated to showing you how to increase your influence and also a whole bunch of outside the box ways to make a lot more sales. If you're in door-to-door sales, probably a good course to get. So when Sue asks me, why are most folks sort of offended when someone has an emotional response? I don't think they are, but they're not going to listen to your message. They're not going to be influenced by what you're saying. So if you want to be more influential, you need to be less emotional. Thanks for watching this video. I'm starting to do a YouTube a little bit more. YouTube demonetizes everything I ever do because YouTube thinks I'm selling drugs or something because I mentioned drugs. Maybe it's karma because I used to sell drugs. I don't know. But I actually help people quit drugs. YouTube, come on, how about a manual review, man? So all of the traffic I get is from myself, from my own email list. YouTube gives me no traffic, gives me no money, really, not much. So, I'd appreciate if you do like the video. I know this is a bit of a rambly one, but we'll get back into normal ones next time. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.